Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving right in to investigate one of history's most fascinating and honestly shockingly modern ancient societies, the Indus Valley Civilization. We're going to look closely at how a society from nearly 5,000 years ago pulled off feats of urban planning and administration that rival some modern cities today. So, let's get into it. Picture this, a civilization of millions stretching across a vast landscape, functioning with beautifully planned cities, gridded streets, and perfect plumbing. Now imagine all of that just seemingly vanishing into thin air. That is the incredible reality of the Indus Valley Civilization, which was arguably the largest Bronze Age civilization in the entire world, flourishing right there in the northwestern part of the Indian subcontinent. Section 1. The Big Picture. Birth of Cities. It's totally wild to see the massive leap this society took in such a short amount of time. Between 7,000 and 5,000 BCE, you basically just have small village communities practicing agriculture and domesticating animals. But as their farming methods improved, surplus food meant people could dedicate their time to other trades. And boom, suddenly by 2600 BCE, this explodes into highly developed urban centers. It's a massive, rapid shift from small farming villages to complex metropolises, right up until a really sudden decline kicks in around 2000 BCE. Spanning over 650,000 square kilometers, the sheer geographic reality of this expansion is just staggering. Archaeologists have actually discovered more than 1,400 sites to date. We're talking massive hubs like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa in modern-day Pakistan, along with Dholavira and Lothal over in India. The sheer scale of administration required to manage a territory that vast during the Bronze Age, it's almost hard to comprehend. Section 2. Ancient Master Planners. These master planners relied on a super strict grid pattern, with streets literally cutting each other at perfect right angles. A typical city was actually divided into two distinct parts. First, you had the citadel, or upper town, which was built on this massive baked brick platform. This likely served as the administrative center and housed the large public buildings. And then you had the lower town, which is where you'd find the double-storied baked brick houses of the everyday common people. And this meticulous planning went way deeper than just the streets. They had remarkable drainage systems like the one excavated at Lothal that point to a level of public works that is just absolutely astounding. You know, we take municipal plumbing totally for granted today, but these ancient citizens were prioritizing public sanitation in a way that wouldn't be seen again in many parts of the world for thousands of years. The level of detail in this sanitation system is just mind-blowing. The drains from individual houses actually fed directly into the street drains, and the main roads had covered drains equipped with cesspools or manholes, which allowed for regular inspections and cleaning. I mean, this isn't just good masonry we're talking about. This proves there was a highly organized standard of civic administration running these cities day in and day out. Over in the citadel at Mohenjo-Daro, archaeologists uncovered the ultimate public work, the Great Bath. Picture a massive rectangular tank made of closely fitted fired bricks, completely waterproofed with a thick layer of bitumen, which is basically tar. It had flights of steps leading down into it, separate bathing rooms along the sides, and it was supplied by its very own large well. While we aren't completely certain, it's highly likely this impressive structure was used for important public functions and ceremonies. Section 3. The Human Element. So what was daily life actually like for an Indus citizen? Pretty comfortable and settled, it turns out. They cultivated crops like wheat, barley, pulses, and mustard, and supplemented their diet with fruits, fish, and meat. And their clothing was quite advanced, too. Spindles found at the excavation sites tell us they were spinning cotton. Men typically wore flowing cloth draped over their shoulders, while women wore these beautifully woven cotton skirts and shawls. And here's a fascinating little window into human nature, ancient glamour. Both men and women adorned themselves extensively. They wore bangles, earrings, and necklaces made of gold, silver, jade, and lapis lazuli. The women even applied kajal to their eyes and painted their lips. It's just a brilliant reminder that human vanity and a genuine love for personal beauty existed millennia ago. On the tech side of things, these folks lived completely without iron. Instead, they alloyed copper and tin together to make bronze. This made the metal stronger and way more malleable, allowing them to forge everyday tools, knives, sickles, and axes. They even made super delicate items like copper razors and sewing needles. Section 4. Economy, Arts, and Culture. The artifacts they left behind reveal an immense artistic skill. We found things like the famous bearded man, which is a finely detailed bust sculpted from stone, showing a figure with a robe draped over one shoulder. We've also found the famed dancing girl, which was cast entirely in bronze. These pieces act like investigative clues, revealing a society that had an incredibly diverse mastery over both stone carving and complex metal casting techniques. This is honestly one of my favorite details. They actually made intricate terracotta toys for their kids that had moving parts. We're talking bulls and rams that could shake their heads, miniature carts, and little toy birds designed to slide up and down on ropes. It just goes to show you that this was a prosperous, playful society that actually had the surplus time and resources to invent complex entertainment for children. All this organization fueled a massive economy. Check out this incredibly precise number. 0.856 grams. That was the exact weight of the smallest cube-shaped stone measure found in their cities. Even more staggering, the most common weight found was exactly 13.7 grams. These weights were remarkably uniform throughout the entire Indus Valley civilization. Think about what that means. A merchant could trade fairly across hundreds of miles of territory using exactly the same standardized measures. And trade, they absolutely did. They established a flourishing trade network by both land and sea. We know for a fact they heavily traded goods like ornaments and grain because Indus Valley artifacts have been found as far away as Mesopotamia. Plus, a massive dockyard found at Lothal further proves they were out there engaging in long-distance, overseas trade with Western Asia. Section 5. The Enduring Mysteries. Which brings us to the ultimate historical cold case. Did they know how to write? I mean, for a society with such advanced urban planning, standardized weights, and international trade, how on earth did they communicate and keep their records? Well, the answer is a resounding yes. They had one of the world's earliest known scripts. We find these brief inscriptions on square and cylindrical seals made of baked clay and soft stone. We know they wrote from right to left. But here's the catch. Historians and linguists have never been able to decipher it. The language of the Indus Valley remains completely locked away from us to this day. And because we can't actually read those words, their religion and core beliefs are completely shrouded in mystery too. We see ancient seals depicting things like mysterious unicorn-like animals. We see depictions of a yogic male figure that archaeologists call Pasupati, which might be an early form of the Hindu deity Shiva. We even see evidence of mother goddesses and tree worship. But without a deciphered script to explain them, these images are just silent, enigmatic clues pressed into clay. So, what ultimately happened to them? Around 2000 BCE, this highly advanced society just suddenly crumbled. Archaeologists basically suspect three main theories. First, natural disasters. Earthquakes might have caused rivers to change course, leading to devastating floods, droughts, and epidemics. Second, they may have simply over-farmed and deforested their land, which led to desertification. Or third, the central authority that was maintaining those perfect street grids simply lost control, causing the cities to gradually fall apart as people moved away. Which leaves us with a massive question. What other secrets still lie buried under the sands of the Indus Valley? And if one day some brilliant historian finally cracks the code of their undeciphered script, how might the forgotten words of these ancient master planners completely rewrite our understanding of human history? It is a truly fascinating mystery to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the past.